on. Let's give them a big round.
Thank you for that great introduction, Anne. I couldn't have done it any better if I had written it myself. Thank you. I have to tell everybody, though, the welcome that I've received, and everybody's made me feel so welcome and inviting since I got here about midday yesterday. And I was a little apprehensive about coming, because whenever I come to a community to speak, I try to get a sense for what's going on in the community. I'll do a Google search to check on the news and what's happening around here. And I was a little anxious because I did a Google search, and you have to be careful when you do Google searches, right? What comes up. And so I saw this headline on the Detroit News website that said, "Robot invasion coming to Detroit." And I looked a little deeper, and then there's all eyes on robots taking over. A little anxious coming from New York. New York's a kind of a weird place, but I don't know. Thank you for DTE in the introduction here, letting me know what this was all about. Can you take a message, please? I'll call him back later. So I looked a little deeper, and then I see something else here. One other. Dragon Trail. What is going on? So I almost called to cancel. But my wife says, well, take a second look. Maybe it's one of those newspapers like the New York Post that has these clickbait headlines, right? So do a deeper search, go to the Detroit Free Press. Robots descending. Dragon Trail to begin. Could go national. Maybe I have to stay home and protect my family. So, but then, big hockey fan in addition to my baseball background, New York Rangers season ticket holder, and I saw the news on Tuesday that SkipWeisman's coming back to Detroit. Yeah. Little patronage here, even though I'm a Rangers fan. I got my Red Wings cap. So I figured if it's good enough for Stevie Y and he's okay coming back, I guess I'll just come anyway. So big changes coming for the Red Wings. Hopefully they can get back on top along with my Rangers. But so change is coming to the Red Wings with new leadership. And when you think of the concept of change, what I've noticed is that there are three types of people. There are those who enthusiastically embrace the change. There are those who tolerate the change and just sort of go along to get along. And then there are those you may be familiar with who either actively or passively resist the change. I'm wondering, what is your tendency? I bet you're a bit like me in that it depends, doesn't it? It depends on the type of change that we're experiencing, because there's three types of change. First type of change is the type that we can absolutely all enthusiastically embrace because we initiate it. Self-initiated change. This is the stuff that we want into our lives. We want to bring it in, and we're okay to pay the price, take the risk, do whatever it takes to get there, put up with the stress, anxiety of it. The first self-initiated change that I remember impacting my life was when I was a senior in high school growing up in New Jersey, 30 minutes from Bruce Springsteen. I first heard that year Born to Run. And as I was looking for colleges, I realized that spoke to me. I wanted to run as far away from New Jersey as Bruce did. So I started looking at schools in California. And I made it all the way to Ohio. But it was good enough for me. It was still a 9-hour drive from my Jersey home, and Mom and Dad were not going to show up unexpectedly. The second self-initiated change was a few years later. I asked my girlfriend to marry me, and we both enthusiastically embraced getting into that relationship. You've probably had similar experiences. The second type of change, imposed change. And this is the type of change that you as a project manager probably experience on a regular basis. This is the stuff that causes you your biggest stress, anxiety, frustrations, challenges, issues. Imposed change because it's coming from the outside, that you have very little control or influence over. Would you agree? And so that's where we invest most of our time and energy. that impose change. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, though I did in looking at, as I was starting to create this program. Have you ever noticed that someone else's self-initiated change becomes our imposed change? I learned this a few years back, very apparently, when my wife at the time self-initiated change and imposed a divorce on me. It's the way it works. Just got to deal with it. Adapt and overcome, as they say. And the third type of change is natural change. If you're a living, breathing human being, as it seems like most of you are because you're responding to my banging attempts at humor, you're experiencing natural change as you sit there, as we grow. There's natural change for weather, right? It's raining here today. It was nice yesterday. The climate changes by the seasons. This is a region where you probably have 4 different seasons or 2 different seasons, depending. And I've noticed, as I look around the room, there's also some of you who have experienced the same natural change that I've experienced in recent years. And I originally resisted this, and then I started to embrace it a little bit. How are you guys doing with that? The best thing about this natural change is I can wear a hat seconds before I get on stage, and I got no hat head. So that's good. But those are the 3 types of change. And change is really inherent in your role as a project manager, isn't it? If there was no need for change in an organization, there'd be no need for a project. If there's no need for a project, there'd be no need for, let's not go there. And so we need to understand, deal with, how are we going to communicate to influence change? Become a change champion. What is that all about? Well, when I think of the concept of a change champion, or champion of change, whatever the syntax is of that, I go back to my baseball days and start thinking about what it takes to create championship performance. Spent 20 years in professional baseball. Led teams that were affiliated with the Boston Red Sox, Cincinnati Reds, New York Mets, Seattle Mariners, Texas Rangers, Tampa Bay. I think I got them all. Unfortunately, not the Detroit Tigers. No connection there. But what I've noticed is that champions on their way to their championship performance don't necessarily do extraordinary things. They may, but it's not necessary. But what they always do is they always practice the fundamentals extraordinarily well. And what we're going to talk about over the next 55 minutes or so are the fundamentals of communicating to exert positive influence so that you can become a champion of change and help your people deal with change and reduce resistance, because we're probably never going to end it, but reduce the resistance and allow it to flow easier and allow you to get your projects done more effectively. Would that be useful? Absolutely, okay. Now, the reason why this is important when it comes to communicating change is that you may not have realized this, but when you try to communicate change, or actually communicate with any other stakeholder, have you ever noticed that getting it right is really difficult and that the odds are not in your favor? There's a reason for that. There's only 3 possible potential outcomes from any communication interaction. 1, we are either building credibility, trust, and respect, or we are slowly eroding the trust and respect, or we are instantly destroying the credibility, trust, and respect of that relationship. The very relationships that you need to be able to communicate, to exert positive influence, and move things forward. What do you notice about that dynamic? 2 of those 3 are not going in the direction that you need, right? Which means every time you attempt to communicate, there's a 67% risk of damaging the relationship. The odds are not in your favor. What we're going to talk about over the next few minutes here is going to help put the odds back in your favor. If that is a worthwhile proposition to kick off this symposium, let me hear by show of applause. All right. I guess we need to get started then. So now it's your turn to talk a little bit, because I want to know what your change experience is and has been. So in a moment, you're going to have an opportunity to turn to a partner, neighbor at your table and discuss communicating to influence change from one of two perspectives. Either somebody communicating to influence you on change and what that interaction was like, and or you having to communicate to influence change to somebody else. What are the challenges, the frustrations, the things that drive you crazy in those type of interactions? You can take the conversation from either perspective, whatever your best experience has been with regard to that, regarding the challenges and frustrations of getting it right in those change scenarios. Now, before I let you go for the short conversation, just a minute, like 30 seconds for each of you, because we don't have much time here. I know in coming to these symposiums, many of you come with friends, coworkers, colleagues, and maybe even your boss. I know DTE has a bunch of people here. So if you're sitting at your table with somebody of that ilk, raise your hand. Okay. So here's a caveat when you have that conversation. You turn to that person, and you're going to have a conversation about the challenges and frustrations of communicating change, and you look them in the eyes and you realize that they're the cause. Find somebody else. We don't want any conflicts here. You have 1 minute. Go. Okay, let's bring it back. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap one more time. Okay, it's time to stop communicating. I'd like to hear from, let's say, 3 people what came up for you in that conversation. Any volunteers would like to share what you came up with as far as the big challenge? Hold on. I grab my little parting gifts here. Get ready. I'm going to look for 2 others, so we'll have 3 of you here. Is that you? Yeah. Your name?
Maitini.
Why don't you stand up so people can see you? This is Maitini, and where you're from?
Maitini, sorry. From University of Michigan. We were a team,
yes.
And all of us agreed that when the change comes from top down, it's a little bit difficult to digest for both the people who are receiving it down and the people who are from the top pushing it down. You need buy-in both ways.
Yes, absolutely. Give her a hand. Thank you, Maitini. Here's a little gift for sharing. Thank you. Who else? Yes, sir. Over here. And you are?
Steve Licari.
And where do you come from?
I am...
Your organization.
Organization? I've been around the greater Detroit area in various capacities as project manager.
Okay, a little vague there. That's okay. You're not Canadian, though.
Pardon me?
You're not Canadian.
I am not.
Okay. Good.
Does it count to have relatives?
I don't know. I know Sean, the president, likes Canucks, but whatever.
So we had a brief conversation. The thing that struck me is that there's change on 2 levels. There's the personal level, person-to-person type of change communications,
yeah.
And also organizational change. Like when you put in a new software system that drives the entire organization to have to accept changes. So
yes.
That's what we came up with.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody know the similarities between those 2 situations? Probably very common stuff. One more person. One more. Oh, Jerry, you got a mic. Good. I'm not in the shape to run through this side of the room. Whew. but I need to get you the gift, so you keep talking. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Joyce Serkich. I work at Trinity Health, and my change experience has been a personal one where my father fell and my parents needed to move from their home of 50 years into senior living.
Wow.
So that change experience, I was able to use my project management skills to help them, but at a personal level, right?
Outstanding, yeah, because that's the sort of the self-initiated and imposed change all in one, right? Change is all around us, and it's happening whether we want it or not, so we might as well learn how to adapt and overcome. Just a little housekeeping. There's a postcard thing at your place setting. That's for you to take notes. There's two parts to the postcard. One side will allow you to take notes and take it home with you, and the other side is a little bit about me and a feedback form if you want to stay in contact with me. So it's perforated. You can fold it and rip it and take what you need from it and turn in what you need so that you get what you came here for. Because what I've learned is having a conversation and verbalizing it or just listening, you learn and you assimilate and you take it in at one level. When you write things down using another one of your senses, it accelerates your learning. And then when we have another conversation about commitments publicly to another colleague, you get it even deeper. So feel free to take notes and write things down. If you want the slides, you can turn in the postcard for feedback and just put slides on it, and I'll make sure I get them to you. So we all have some experience with change, communicating it or having to deal with it that's imposed upon us. My first experience communicating to influence change didn't go well. It was my third season as CEO of my first professional baseball team in Greensboro, North Carolina. And, well, have you ever had the perfect project plan? Raise your hand if you've ever had that perfect project plan. Yeah. And have you ever had somebody more senior to you, like your boss or somebody even more senior, throw a monkey wrench into that perfect project plan? Of course, yes. So that's what happened to me. At the end of my second season, my boss messed up my perfect project plan. See, in minor league baseball, in professional baseball, we time everything from opening day, which in this scenario was second week of April, about a week after the major leagues opened. And we back-timed everything to October 1st, 6-month perfect project plan. It worked perfectly for 4 years. And then my boss, the owner of the team, self-initiated a change that imposed the change on us. See, we were trying to move up a classification from single A to double A, which got us a higher quality level of baseball to our community. And we thought we had the deal done. And at the 11th hour, the league voted against the deal. So my boss decided to sue the league. And that put us sort of in limbo for the fall. And October, November, December were really key months for us because we would do the renewal sales of season tickets and advertisers and sponsorships. And then we'd have January, February, and March to fill in the holes and get new sponsors for new inventory. But we were in limbo the whole fall. It was sort of like, we sat around in the office twiddling our thumbs. And so the year end comes and the lawsuit's still going. We had to make a decision. We had to tell what league we were playing in, and we had to get ready. So we decided we were going to stay single A and deal with it. But we were 3 months behind on a 6-month plan. And so I made a decision around the holidays that we were going to expand the work requirement day. So from 9 to 5, I was going to ask everybody to step up a little bit, and mandatory office hours 8 to 6, Monday through Friday. I was young. I was 28 years old. It was only my third year leading the team and having a senior leadership position like this, CEO of a small $3 million baseball operation with a staff of about 8 or 10 or so. So I called everybody into the conference room. First day of January, we're back. And it didn't go well. I thought it was no big deal. We basically had a 3-month vacation in the fall. I'm just asking you to expand a little bit for just 3 months to get ready for opening day. Most of the staff kind of were tolerating it. They were sort of ambivalent going along to get along, but my one person, my number 2 guy, Kevin, was not happy, and he debated me in the meeting. We had a very spirited debate. I held firm, We took it private in my office. I held firm. The next day, I get a call from our most immediate boss, the executive vice president of the ownership group. His name was George Dice, and George was based in Nashville, Tennessee. It was an ownership group that owned 6 teams in the Southeast. And George was a great guy. He was a short, stout Southern gentleman, an old school numbers cruncher, financial type of guy. And you don't see this much anymore, but George always had a cigarette dangling from his lower lip. But he's a great coach and mentor to me for the 5 years I worked with him. And he calls me. He says, "Hey, Skip, Kevin called me. I just got off the phone with him. He's trying to get me to overrule your decision you announced yesterday." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What did you tell him?" He says, I said, "Kevin, follow Skip's decision or find a new job." So I felt really grateful that George backed me up, which was a great leadership lesson in delegating authority and responsibility, and you back that person up, but then you also deal with how you could have done something different or better, and George was a great coach in that area, so he taught me something I should have done differently, and we talked about it. And that has morphed into, over my years of being a professional speaker and business coach, to this model that I call the change influence pyramid, and there's 3 levels to it. And so what George taught me is that I mastered the first one, which is self-influence. You got to get the change right with yourself. And that was not a problem for me. It was a no-brainer because I made the decisions. So I was on board with it. But think about the changes that you face, some of the changes that we talked about that everybody shared. If it's imposed from somebody else, coming from top down, you have to buy into it first, don't you, before you can get anybody else. As one of my colleagues, professional speaker Phil Jones, who's a sales trainer, talks about all the time, he says, if you're not convinced, you cannot convince. Same thing here. But I was good with this because I made the decision. And then George told me that I skipped a level. I went right to group influence and faced resistance. And he said I skipped a step, and this was the one-on-one influence. He said, I knew you were under the gun, not much time, we're 3 months behind already, you had to get things rolling, I get that. And you tried to push ahead too fast and influence when the situation wasn't right, and you forced everybody in an open public setting to react emotionally and logically to what they were just hearing without any time for them to process. And that's why it went down. That's why I faced such staunch resistance. He said, you've got to slow down sometimes to speed up, which is actually the topic of a book that a colleague of mine wrote that I highly recommend called Slow Down to Speed Up by Liz Bywater, this is the kind of thing that she talks about. Because sometimes when you try and move ahead too fast, and you've probably experienced this, things get kind of bogged down, don't they? Even though you're trying to push things forward because you haven't done the groundwork. You haven't done the fundamental work. And so you've got to go to these people one-on-one, vet it privately, get their feedback, their input as to what their experience is, to what it might mean to them. And not like you're going to make a decision, any different decision, but at least people feel heard, and it'll make things easier when you do the final group interaction. Does this make sense? So that's what George taught me. And then I thought, as I was creating this content for actually, I've gotten this from a couple different PMI groups, I realized that I was missing something. Even if I had done what George Dice had suggested to me, I would have messed it up. I would have got it wrong. Because I was missing this first power communication trait of change champions, which is empathy. We have to lead with empathy. This is what Mattini was talking about, right? We've got to really look at things from the other person's perspective and understand what's going on in their world. Because would you agree that almost any change that is presented to us, except maybe that self-initiated change, there's going to be some resistance, right? And if there's going to be resistance, if we can know that there's going to be resistance, what's going on? Oh, yeah. I have a cat. I actually tried that. That's exactly what you get. My cat Lynx does not like the leash. It's the same gift going over and over. It's not going to change. So if we know there's going to be resistance, what happens when we resist the resistance? We get more resistance, right? So we have to If we know there's going to be resistance, we have to take the first step, which is expect the resistance and embrace the resistance. Because otherwise, you're going to face more resistance coming back. So once we expect and embrace the resistance, all right, no more distractions. Let's get away from here. There's step 2, which is we have to ask the empathetic question, the empathetic magic question for change champions. Has anybody done any sales training? Anybody see themselves as a salesperson? Raise your hand high, because I want to see how many. Yeah, we've got like -1% of the room. All right, can we talk? Everybody in this room is a salesperson. Right? Communicating to influence, whatever, change or anything else, is a sales job. Another good book to read is a book by the name of a man by the name of Daniel Pink, who wrote a book called To Sell is Human. He's a good friend and colleague of mine. He actually gave me a testimonial quote from my book. I'm very thankful for it. But to sell is human. We're all human beings. I guarantee you there's at least 2 places you've had to sell. Anybody have a child between 2 years old and 10 years old? How often do you sell them on bedtime? Anybody have a conversation you might have had with a significant other or spouse lately about going out to dinner or a restaurant or a movie? Sales job. So embrace sales. Embrace influence. Now, if you've ever done any sales training, you might have heard of this thing called WIFM, W-I-I-F-M. Anybody know what WIFM is? What's in it for me? When it comes to communicating change, that's not the question you want to ask. It's a bridge too far. Nobody cares about the change benefits. That's a benefit question, right? If somebody introduces a change initiative to you, do you really care about the end result initially? Is that the thing that gets you excited at the very beginning of that change? Most likely not. You really probably don't care, because there's a question that has to come before that, which is WIMFM. It doesn't flow off the tongue quite as well as WIFM, but WIMFM is really the question you need to be asking and assessing from the other person's perspective, which stands for, what's it mean for me? What's it mean for me? Not what's in it for me, but what's it mean for me? Here's an idea, project plan for change I'm going to ask for your help on. And if we do it, if we succeed, everybody here who participates successfully gets $1 million tax-free at the end of it. Great benefit, right? But if we ask the other question, what's it mean for me? It means you're going to have to leave home for 12 months, travel the world, and live in third world countries, and very risky, dangerous environments where there will be very little potable water and you'll be living in a straw shack. Who's on board for that? Some of you may be. Doesn't matter whether you are or not. It's my job to know which one that is, right? And to be able to have that conversation so that we can know what it means for each individual person. Think that'll help? Thank you. This is your audience participation part. I need some feedback. It's done. I don't even see here. The lights here are like blinding. All I know, you guys look like a painting. So, yeah, the little verbal responses help. So what's it mean for me? Now you get that. Then there's a third thing. Do you know people who, no matter what the situation is, just focus on all the stuff that's out of their control? They complain, they whine, they moan, they worry about all the stuff that's out of their control, right? So you have to be the great coach and bring them along and coach them to only focus on what's in our control and let everything else go. It's really stressful to deal with people who are just focusing on stuff that's out of their control, right? You've probably dealt with this. So that's the third step of communicating with empathy. Coach them to focus in this way. Now, I don't know if this would be helpful for you or not, but I created a little document that might be helpful for you. I have a 4-part coaching conversation that will walk you through actually scripting language and the way to assess something and help somebody move from that focusing on what's out of our control and complaining, moaning, whining, worrying, to actually making a decision on what we can do about it. Would that be helpful for you? Would you like something like that? So pull out your smartphones, little phone interaction here, and text the word CHAMP to 66866. Text the word CHAMP to 66866, and what will hopefully happen, never know with technology these days, but what should happen is you'll get a text back relatively immediately. It'll ask you to put your email address in. Put your email address in. It'll send you another text back, and you will get a link to download the document. And then you'll also get a follow-up link in your email, so you have a backup there as well. So if you want to do that, feel free to do that free of charge. Just my little gift for you, because I think people can benefit from the scripting in there. So that's communication trait number 1, empathy. There's not enough empathy in the world, is there? We could certainly use more of it, and this will help move change. Communication trait number 2 is a lost art in the world. It's coming back in business, though, and because of neuroscience, is showing what this skill, this strategy can do for you. I find that project managers aren't necessarily the best at this, and I encourage people to get coaching and training and development in this area of communication, and it's storytelling. And when it comes to change, I don't think there's any better way of communicating to influence change than through storytelling. And there's 3 types of stories we should be telling. The first is the origin story. Where did it come from? What's the genesis of it? Who was involved? How these decisions came? A little bit of the why. Second story is the vision story. What's the end result we're going after? How can you make this end result of this change compelling and exciting and get people want to come on board? How's this change going to make the project, the organization, even better than it is right now? Paint that vision story. When I work with organizations, again, I default to my baseball background, and I talk about creating that championship game vision. So like the first day of training camp for the Detroit Tigers in spring training, everybody in that organization knows what the vision is for that season. What is it? Yeah, right. The World Series. I know somebody said get to the World Series. Detroit Lions. First day of training camp of the NFL season. What do you think? Super Bowl? Okay, I know it's... Hey, folks, I'm a Jets fan. So we're in the same boat. Should be, though, but there's a difference between my Jets and your Lions and a team like the dreaded New England Patriots. They have the same visions, right? Everybody wants to get to the Super Bowl, but there's a step that's missing, which is, I guess, the execution of our guys, right? Not quite as good. But the vision story, everybody, what's your World Series? What's your championship game for the change in the project? And then the third, going the wrong way, is the contribution story. And this may be the most important of the stories. Contribution story is how is this change going to contribute to making the project better? The end result sort of molds in really well with the vision story. But the second part of the contribution story is probably even most important, and that is that individual's contribution. Why is this individual that you're talking to vital to the project? What are they going to bring? What are their skills? How can they be the best resource possible? Because people want to know that they're making a difference. That's a bottom line fundamental of human motivation. We want to know that we're making a difference in the world. And if you can articulate and create the story around what makes them the perfect team member and why you need them to buy into this change and how they can contribute and bring their skills, their resources, their attitude, whatever it is, to making this change move forward, that's really powerful. That individual contribution story. And again, another quote I'm stealing from my buddy Phil Jones, who says that facts and details only tell. And I know project managers love the facts and the details. Facts and details only tell, but stories will always sell. So I encourage you to get some training, coaching in storytelling. I guarantee it'll help make change move more fluidly for you. How are we doing so far? Storytelling and empathy. Good? Yeah, clap, clap, clap. Yeah, it always looks good for the video. Clap. Communication trait number 3 for change champions. This is a conglomeration of 3 communication strategies. And because I know project managers love triangles, I put it in a triangle format. You've got the talent triangle. You've got the triple constraints triangle. Time, scope, cost. Any others? I'm sure there's many others in your PMBOK. But this is the champion communication triangle. And there's 3 sides, obviously, to this triangle. And the first, all 3 of these probably, but the first one, you're going to think, when I tell you this, you're going to think, Skip, this is ridiculous. It's really, you're being really condescending right now. This is elementary. And the reason why I put it in here is because when I'm hearing from project managers I work with for the last 7 years, since 2012, PMO leaders, people like you, project managers not like you, not anybody in this room, because you guys are champion project managers, but the other chapters that I've spoken to probably have this issue. Raise your hand if you would like people in your world to communicate with you with a little more sense of urgency and promptness. Anybody? Yeah, only about half, the whole room. So the first communication strategy is prompt communication. Wouldn't you love more prompt communication? How many of you are wishing, waiting, hoping for somebody just to get back to you and respond? Yeah. So those people are committing one of my 7 deadliest communication sins. So I wrote a book called Overcoming the 7 Deadliest Communication Sins. I'm going to have a table, books will be available for you outside. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but 7 deadliest communication sins. We're going to talk about 3 of them in this session that are most impactful for this communicating change in this model. And this is sort of like a no-brainer, but it fits here. Prompt communication, the communication sin that all those people, not anybody in this room, but all those other people are committing is a thing called a lack of immediacy, urgency, and promptness, which is a not so fancy way of saying communication procrastination. Now again, I know none of you probably have this challenge, but anybody you know have a challenge with communication procrastination, which is the intentional delaying of communicating something you know needs to be communicated in a more timely manner. And we're putting these things off because it's a difficult conversation, it's a hard conversation, I have to deliver bad news, I'm afraid of the response, I'm afraid of not being liked. It's all fear-based. Communication in any form is fear-based. And it's really damaging your ability to get stuff done, isn't it? And I have a sense that if you're having this issue with others, in some circumstances, others may have the same issue with you. And so I challenge you to look at your communication habits and where you're communicating, dealing with communication procrastination. So how do we overcome this? Well, here's a challenge for you, and I'm going to ask you, the subtitle of my book, Overcoming the 7 Deadliest Communication Sins, is a new standard for workplace communication. And this is something I'm really, really passionate about, and I'm going to harp on this. This is my little soapbox. We have to set a new standard for communication because it ain't working right now in a lot of different ways that each of the 7 communication sins speaks to. And this is such a no-brainer. This is so easy to overcome, and yet we fall into these habits and patterns. So here's my challenge for you. You should be communicating any of those challenging conversations at the first most appropriate time. Silence, I know, because you're thinking, well, Skip, what does that mean? First most appropriate time. That can be anything. I understand that because I know a lot of people who just keep putting off that first most appropriate time. I can never get to it. Never gets to the top of the list. So I say first most appropriate time because sometimes in the moment, immediate is not the right time. Would you agree? Public setting, it needs to be a private conversation. Or the emotions are too high and we need some separation to make it appropriate. But I think how many PMPs do we have in the room? Yeah, as PMPs, room full of PMPs, project management professional, would you agree that a project management professional should be able to communicate effectively and relatively rapidly? Right? That's your job. No more than 72 hours. 48 to 72 hours, you should be communicating any of these challenging conversations. Find that first most appropriate time within 72 hours. There's no reason why you can't. I don't care. And if you have other things that are going on, you need to get information from somebody else, or you have to deal with somebody else who's committing communication procrastination, and you're waiting, because I know there's a lot of waiting for responsiveness because people are doing the same things, just check in and say, hey, we need to have this conversation. I don't have everything lined up. We're going to have to talk late next week. Is that okay? Let's find a time. I call it the wait till your father gets home conversation. But you're addressing it and letting people know a deeper conversation is coming. You're not letting it lapse and fester and people think it's done deal. We need to do more status updates on what's going on instead of keeping people wishing, wondering, waiting, and hoping that somebody's going to respond. Because I know that's the world that you live in. And my communication strategies here hopefully will help you bridge that gap. Because I believe if you work this model, you can increase productivity of yourself and others by 50% overnight, just by making different decisions to set a new standard. And the second communication strategy is going to help with that. And this is another epidemic in the world, which is direct communication. There's a lack of directness and candor. Would you agree in the conversations that you have? We're sort of beating around the bush. We're being wishy-washy. Don't want to make that commitment. And so a woman came up to me at a networking event in my local community, smaller event than this, about 100 people. And she says, Skip, we're having real problems in our organization. I need to refer you to my boss. We've got teamwork issues, personnel issues, nobody's taking accountability, some conflict, you name it, this is going on in our organization. I said, okay, great. So she says, my boss is Joe. I'm going to do an introductory email and see if we can get something going with you. I said, great. Tuesday, my friend Tina emails two of us. Thursday afternoon, we get an email back from Joe, which says, I'd be happy to speak with Skip. Have him call me anytime. I was pretty excited about the new business opportunity. I fire off an email back to Joe. How is Friday at 10 a.m. or Monday at 2 p.m. for a conversation? Email comes back about an hour later. No, Skip, please call me late Tuesday. I'm taking Friday and Monday off. Are you thinking what I was thinking in that moment? I began to type an email. Joe, what happened to any time? Have you ever gotten an email from somebody that got your emotions kind of boiling up and you wanted to fire off a snippy, snotty response? Have you ever done that? Raise your hand if you've ever actually done that. How'd it go? Not well. I don't recommend it. I did not send that email. You can take a breath. I email back, Joe, enjoy your long weekend. I'll call you 4 o'clock Tuesday. I'm sitting at home, minding my own business, watching TV, 9:30 Thursday night. Commercial comes on TV, I check my email, and Joe has another email for me. It says, Skip, please call me shortly after 5 p.m. That's the best time for me to speak with you. I pull out the email. Joe, what happened to any time? I didn't send that one either. Would not have been a good way to build credibility, trust, and respect with a new prospect, right? So Tuesday comes. I wait till 5:07 because who knows what shortly after 5 means, right? Guess what I get? Voicemail. How infuriating is that? Has that ever happened to you? Hey, see, Joe is committing one of my biggest communication sins, which is called a lack of specificity. Lack of specificity is another epidemic in our world because we're just communicating with these phrases of anytime. What does anytime mean? Rather non-specific, obviously a different meaning. How many phrases do you hear throughout your day that cause you to have to be a mind reader? Wish, wait, hope that somebody's going to respond or maybe be in the right place, right? When you need to be there or whatever. When you're going to get something back, right? What other, I want you to think right now, what are the non-specific phrases you hear on a regular basis? I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Turn to a neighbor, turn to a partner at your tables. Just brainstorm 30 seconds. What are all those non-specific phrases that drive you crazy, cause you to wish, wait, hope, and wonder? 30 seconds, go. Hello. Hi. What's your name?
Put the light back on.
Oh, I'm going to need that for going out. If I can use this one. I actually took it off because I didn't want it to be in the way of the video and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Bring it back. right, we didn't have to do the clapping exercise. That's good. Okay, they say I have to use this mic. Okay, just real quick. I'm going to come down. I need some exercise. I'm trying to get my steps. I have this new Apple Watch, trying to get steps up. So who's got a non-specific phrase that you hear every day that drives you crazy? Nobody? Hold on. Put that hand in the air. Hold on. What?
Getting those steps in.
Yes.
It'll be done soon.
It'll be done soon. Who else has heard that before? What's that mean? Who else? Give me another one. Yes. Excuse me. Don't trip me.
I got it. It's under control. I got this.
All right. Awesome. I love this. Who else? Oh. Yes. I don't have to go to the gym tonight. Okay.
Put something on my calendar. Booked up.
This is like Family Feud. You ever watch Family Feud? Somebody gives an answer, everybody says, yeah, good answer. Yes, James.
Let me get back with you.
Let me get back with you. Yeah, okay, one more on the other side of the room because, real quick on the passing.
See me about this.
See me about this? Yep. All right, one more, and then I'm out of breath. Transparency, yes, define that for me, please, in a way that everybody can agree on. So you see what I'm talking about here? What do you want to do about this? Why do we do this? Because we don't want to be held accountable to any commitments. You probably do. Would you agree that you're both the victim? Yes. And the perpetrator of this? Stop it. Stop it. This is about setting a new standard. Make a commitment. You know what happens when you do this? Your credibility, the trust and respect that you need with other people goes through the roof. Productivity will increase. These are some of the ones that I hear that people have told me. I'm going to add a couple. Thank you for sharing those. Right? We have to communicate with greater specificity so that we can get things done. When I teach this concept to organizations and project teams, productivity goes through the roof. We set a commitment to each other. And the biggest culprit, you're also to blame for one reason. You accept this from others. You hear all those phrases, and what do? Okay. And you walk away, and then there's the phone. Refresh email. When's it coming? Right? It's your own fault. If you hear those non-specific phrases from somebody else, what should you do? Ask for something more specific. And again, you have to do it in an empathetic way. You have to put it in the other person's best interest. So that I can get you what you need, when you need it, can we be more specific? Because I want to meet your expectations or exceed them. What do you think how would somebody respond to that? Put it in their best interest. I don't care if it's the CEO of the company, the project sponsor, you put it in their best interest. They'll either tell you and they'll be more specific, or they'll tell you why they can't be. And isn't that a good conversation to have? So you win either way. Raise your hand or clap. Let's see your best show of applause if you can get better at this and you're committed to doing it. Thank you. So that's two. So really interesting thing here is when I do this, I have a lot of people come up to me after keynotes. For whatever reason, they ask me a bunch of questions. You have a specific situation you couldn't talk about here you want my help with. I love doing that stuff. So if you have an issue that you want help with, I'm here all day. I've got my book signing table out there. Please come up and have a conversation. But people sometimes will come up to me right after because they want to be first in line, which is great. And they ask me one of two questions. The first question they ask me is, this is really great. I think our company could benefit. Do you do corporate programs, and could you come to our company and do it? To which I say, of course. All right? Happy to do that. Let's exchange cards, and I'll call you on Monday when I get home. If anybody's thinking about that, happy to have that conversation. Fill out your postcard. The other question that they ask me is this. I have no problem being prompt and direct. Matter of fact, people have told me I'm too prompt and direct. Anybody in the room too prompt and direct? Oh, a whole table full here. They're all sitting together. And so they say, what does that mean? Is that wrong? Is that bad? So, well, you tell me. How are people responding to you? And basically what I say is you're probably missing the third part of the triangle that you just learned about. And that's respectful communication. It's coming across as disrespectful. Now, I know different people have different definitions. We have 600 people in this room. We probably have 600 different definitions of how we want to be respected and what that means to us. So I've tried to help define it a little bit with my communication sins. And there's 3 communication sins that are part of this strategy. We're going to talk about the one that's, again, in your world is the biggest culprit. And if you solve this, this will support the 50% increase in productivity and build huge levels of trust and respect and credibility with others. And the best way I can explain this one, I think you'll appreciate this. A few months ago, sitting at home in my living room, my wife is laying on her couch reading her iPad. I'm on my Archie Bunker chair. Remember Archie Bunker? He had that chair in the living room. TV's on in the background, and I'm typing an article for my website. Something on the TV triggers a story from my day, and I begin to tell my wife the story. And she's really into it. She's giving me all the active listening responses. Anybody done active listening training? She's saying, yep, oh, that sounds good. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. She's giving me all those verbal responses. She's nodding her head. She's into it. I ask a question at the end of this, and she says, Skip, can you just go back to the last thing you said before the question? I checked out for a minute. I said, no problem. Happy to. What was the last thing you heard? And I didn't mean to do this to catch her, but that was to me, and I didn't want to regurgitate the whole thing. And with that, she sits up, throws the iPad onto the couch, and says, you caught me. I mean, I caught you? She says, yeah, I didn't hear any of that. I was hoping if you gave me the last little bit, I could take the question, put it all together, and fake it. Now, think about this. Now, I do this work. This is my livelihood. And so she knows what I do. We talk about this stuff, and she holds me accountable to this stuff too, which is fine. And so we had a good laugh about it. Can you imagine, though, another couple in another scenario, another situation where that conversation could have gone off the rails? See, this is a lack of focused attention. Would you agree this is an epidemic in your world because of this? All right, laptops, iPads, pads, whatever, tablets, whatever you want to call them. Another thing that's infuriating, we're trying to multitask when we're communicating with another human being. Now, research shows that just general multitasking is not effective. But think about how ineffective it is when you're trying to have a conversation with another human being. Have you ever been in front of somebody having a conversation and their phone rings and you get the hands? Makes you feel real important, doesn't it? Or, no, I'm listening, go ahead. How often does that happen? Have you ever done this to somebody else? We're both the victim and the perpetrator of this too. Guess what the next 2 words I'm going to say? Stop it. I'm sure you felt devalued, unimportant in that moment. You may have been empathetic. Oh, I get it. We all have to multitask when we do this. You're undermining that relationship. Remember, 67% risk? This is all the stuff that's damaging or instantly destroying your relationships. And you wonder why you can't get them to respond to you. Responsiveness in the 21st century moving forward is going to be huge currency. And we need to leverage it and become a championship project manager to be a champion of change. Lack of focused attention. Stop it. So, that's a simple thing. So, no multitasking when you're communicating with another human being. Stop it. Put it down. Honor the person, but not the interruption. Deflect it. I'm in the middle of something. I'll come down or give you a call in 30 minutes. Right? Is that okay? Or can we schedule a more important time, a more appropriate time when I can give you the full attention that you deserve for this? Try to redirect those. The The other side of this that's really important, that one tip to do this. Whose responsibility is it for the focused attention when you're communicating with another person? Is it yours or theirs? Both, right? We as presenters or speakers, even in a one-on-one conversation, you're presenting, it's your responsibility to command their attention. Just like here today. You've got a lot going on, I'm sure, outside of here. Family, projects, you're getting texts, emails, I'm sure. And with smartphones, you can do that work and do a quick response and get back in. That's okay. I get that. You could be doing all your work. That's why people sit in the back. It's okay. It's my responsibility to command your attention. I don't have any preconceived notions that you should be listening to me. I have to make it worthwhile. You have to make it worthwhile. So for the last 50 minutes or so, I've been able to command your attention. Thank you. I was a little nervous. I was going to walk off the stage with my head between my legs. You can do the same. What am I doing? I'm talking about stuff that's important to you from your perspective. I think I have a pretty good handle on that, I hope. I'm somewhat engaging with vocal variety and everything. And I've told a couple of stories that I think might have been valid for you. I connected with you. That's all I'm saying you can do and you should be doing. And that will help you influence change and become a champion of change. Does this make sense? Thank you. Yep, no. Thank you. So one other caveat I want you to look at here. I often show this model in a Venn diagram, and you'll see where the sweet spot of championship communication is. It's a small target, isn't it? Because what you'll probably notice, and you probably experienced this and felt this as you're looking at this, what I've found in doing this talk and coaching and working with others and doing some research on this, we mostly bring two of these three to bear in any interaction, and we default away from the third. So sometimes it's prompt and direct, not very respectful. Sometimes it's direct and respectful, but not very prompt. And sometimes it's respectful and prompt, not very direct. And the thing that causes that is really the environment we're in, who we're speaking to, what the personality is of the other person, what their hierarchy is, and what their relationship is from a seniority level or boss level subordinate thing, right? So this dynamic shifts. We have to be really diligent and build the habit of prompt, direct, and respectful all the time and build the skills to make this happen. And when you do that, you will be not just a champion of change, you'll be a powerful influencer. And it all comes from, first, communication that builds the relationships, that builds the credibility and trust and respect that you need. That's where we're going with this. That's my challenge for you to make that happen. So, in baseball parlance, we're coming to the top of the ninth inning, which means we're coming to, hopefully, the close. Right? Don't want games to go beyond 9 innings. I don't know if you know this, any baseball fans out there, in the minor leagues last year, they tested starting base runners at second base in the extra innings. So they don't have those 18, 20 inning ball games that go on forever. They're thinking about it for the major leagues yet, but they're not ready to take that leap. It worked well in the minor leagues, though. I've been to some 18, 20 inning games, and I get home at 2 in the morning with 3 people in the stands, the diehards. But so top of the ninth inning, we're going to start wrapping this up. 3 final things for you. 1, I have my book. If anybody would like to get a copy of my book, Overcoming the 7 Deadliest Communication Sins, I have copies here. They're $20 by themselves, typically. But the little gifts I gave out, this is a postcard packet. 5 communication models in here, 2 of which we've talked about, 3 other quick reference communication guides that will be part of the package. This normally sells for $10, so you get that as part of the book package for $20. And if you do have questions, you just want to come up to me throughout the day, I'm at the table. If you have a specific situation you want help with, happy to talk to you about it. And if we don't have time, can't do it here because of what you have to do, happy to exchange cards and have a coaching conversation with you somewhere next week at the first most appropriate time. and we'll work that out. As I said earlier, it's also really important, if you want to assimilate this stuff and do something with it, because don't you hate you go to conferences and we get all this great learning. You're going to be leaving here. There's tremendous great breakout sessions for you to earn your PDUs, but not just earn PDUs. Don't come here just to accumulate PDUs. Come here to learn something, take it back and implement and make your world better and different, even better and different, as I like to say. Great closing keynote by my colleague April. April, wave your hand, say hi, over here in the pink. So don't rush out after lunch. Wait for April's program as the closing keynote. She will bring a great end to this program for you. So, challenge for you is now make a commitment. What did you hear today over the last 50 minutes that resonated with you, that you think you'd like to step up and make a commitment to a higher standard of communication? Don't try to do everything. Pick one or two things that you think you want to get started on this. Turn to a partner. You have 1 minute. Make that commitment to somebody at your table, and then I'm going to ask at least six people, to share what their commitment is to the whole group when you're done. You have 1 minute, go. Yeah, I'm probably going to go 9:25 because I took this and then a closing story. Okay, stop, says the Apple Watch. Good conversations going, it sounds like. If you can hear my voice, clap. Just one clap is fine. We'll get the big one at the end, though. Get you warmed up for that. All right, I have some gifts for people who are willing to share their commitment. I think I have to give you a little bit of bonus incentive. I know all about human motivation. It's good to give rewards. So I've got the postcard packet and a little stress relief ball. So, who's going to share their commitment in a room of 600 peers? Raise a hand in the air because it's tough for me to see because of the lights. I need to get that hand in the air. I think there's a half hand here. It's the first one I saw go up. Who's got one? Okay. And your name?
Gina.
Gina?
Gina Franciosi.
Ooh, okay. And where you're from?
Trinity Health.
Trinity Health. Who else is from Trinity Health? Very nice. Nice little group. Okay, and your commitment is?
So I think telling the story, finding out the reason why, making it all about them.
Right.
So they have a vested interest in what you want to communicate.
Outstanding. Good.
Respond.
Cool. Thank you. Give Gina a hand. Thank you. Another one I saw over here. Where? Oh, you got it. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll do one more over here.
We have Kristen.
Oh, you got. Oh, he's going. Okay.
Hi, Skip.
Hi.
We were talking about coaching people to worry about the things that they can control.
Okay, outstanding. I've got the little gift reward. If I ever get back over there, I'll get it to you. Okay, we have Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa Rosenbaum with Ford Motor. Stop procrastinating.
Okay.
Be prompt with my communications.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Cool. Whoops, my ball is rolling here. Okay. We'll give this to, where? Okay, ooh, good, we got a, good. Kim?
Hi, Kim Ravinsky, GM Financial. Our organization is going through big change right now. I'm part of the organizational change management group, and so I'm committing to making sure that we communicate promptly on a weekly basis all the change, because it's enterprise-wide change. So it's we've got the demand there, and so our team is committing to delivering on that.
Okay, great. And has that been a problem for you?
This is just starting up.
Okay.
So we're just gathering our teams together.
Great.
But yeah, communication hasn't gone out as promptly as everybody wants to, so yeah.
Cool. Outstanding. Thank you so much, Kim. And one more over here. We get a member of my gender. Think about it. Why is that we got all women and one man? Yes, Raja?
I'm going to change my PowerPoints to align with what you said, the storytelling, the vision story, start with empathy. I have to roll out a new process right now for many, many PMs. So I realized that I was doing it the wrong way.
Really? So you're stealing my material?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. No, it's fine. So you're doing it the wrong way. Explain.
I was putting too much detail up front. I have to lead with empathy and the win first, and then tell the story, get them interested, and then say this is the change you're going to experience, versus putting this is the process you're going to do from now on. So that's a bad way to introduce.
Yeah. So after you tell that story, then you can engage them and say, what does this mean for you? What does this mean for you? What does this mean for you? And let them tell their story, and then you can adjust accordingly, right?
Yeah.
Little hesitation there. If you want to talk about it, I'm happy to talk with you later. And at the first most appropriate time, we'll talk about it, and I'll coach you through it. I got one more. Okay, Sean.
Catherine Corbin with Booz Allen Hamilton, and my customer is the government. And I guess it ties into the not procrastinating. After a conversation, if you really want to get with that person, arrange a meeting immediately on Outlook or set a time immediately. And that way it's on their radar. And I agree with the guy who said don't put it all up front. You want to have enough that's enticing so that they don't blow off the meeting and actually have a conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Give everybody a hand that did that. Thank you for sharing. Catherine, you made a really good point that I want to reinforce, is that when we get something on the calendar, we make a commitment, and so much of this stuff is that we don't want to hold ourselves to this standard. We want to be wishy-washy. We want that little flexibility, and it's really hurting your credibility. Because what I do is, if you were to call my voicemail, I make a commitment to reply to all voicemails on my phone within 3 hours. And I actually encourage my clients to do something similar. Now, I'm not saying 3 hours is a standard you have to hold yourself to, but set some level of specificity that the person who calls you is going to get a reply within a real time period. I think 24 hours is reasonable. There's no reason why you can't reply within 24 hours. And I give myself an out in my voicemail message that says, I'll reply by phone, text, or email within 3 hours. So if I'm here at a conference, I'm not going to call them back. I will send them a text. Here's what I'm doing. I'll call you first thing Monday morning. There's no reason why you can't do this. And the funny thing that happens when you do this, I know when I get that voicemail, the clock's ticking. It forces me to hold myself to a higher standard. And if I don't get back to somebody for 4 hours, do they really care? Except for my close friends that give me a hard time and then they tell me the clock's ticking. But no, as long as you get back, they want the promise of a response. And again, 21st century, responsiveness is your currency for credibility, trust, and respect that you need to be able to influence. So that's my final little lesson there. But let's bring in the closer, which is one final point, new point I want to leave you with that brings this whole thing together. So you heard I was CEO for some professional baseball teams, all at the minor league level. And what you may not realize is that at the minor league level, we have a lot to do, much like the people who run this symposium. And I have to tell you, quick aside, I've spoken to about 36 project management chapters across North America, various sizes. This is the third largest audience I've ever spoken to for PMI. This chapter's volunteers are the best I've ever experienced. And I don't say that just because I'm in Detroit. So let's give them all a hand for this event so far. They've really gone above and beyond. Their communication with me to coordinate this event has just been phenomenal, and ever since I got here at noon yesterday, it's been great. So what you may not understand is that at the minor leagues we have a small staff. It's not like the big Detroit Tigers, huge organization. We have small staffs, have them do a lot of stuff, and everybody pretty much has to pitch in. And one day I actually found myself literally pitching in. I got a phone call at my office, 3 o'clock, game day for a home game, from our manager, Butch. He says, Skip, Bobby, our pitching coach, hurt his arm yesterday, and we need another arm to throw batting practice. I said, well, I know you guys take the field in an hour for batting practice. I don't know if I can get somebody here in time. He says, no, I get that. I was thinking about you. I said, Butch, I'm a high school baseball dropout. I can't throw batting practice to you guys. He says, no, you're athletic. You play softball. You play tennis. You can do this. Come down to the clubhouse in 30 minutes. So, have you ever said yes to something and then realized, what did I get myself into? Next thing I know, I'm standing 55 feet from home plate behind this L screen. It's a protective screen for the batting practice pitchers. There's a bucket of baseballs at my feet, and I'm in a practice uniform. So, have you ever been in a situation where you felt intimidated by the environment and the people around you? In those situations, have you ever overcompensated? So I think I got to really step it up. So I wind up like it's the bottom of the 9th inning, Game 7 of the World Series. And I throw as fast as I can. And to my surprise, the guy swings and misses. I'm thinking, beginner's luck. So I wind up like it's the bottom of the 9th inning, Game 7 of the World Series, and throw as fast as I can. Swing and a miss, strike 2. Now I'm building some confidence. So I wind up like it's the bottom of the 9th inning, Game 7 of the World Series, throw as fast as I can. Swing and a miss, strike 3. If this had been a ball game, I'd have my first strikeout. Now I'm feeling really confident. I'm looking around the stands like, any scouts in here? Maybe I do belong. Have you heard of Nolan Ryan? Nolan Ryan is the greatest strikeout pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball. In his day, my era, 70s, 80s, and 90s, he was the hardest throwing pitcher then and maybe in the history of baseball. I'm thinking, they can't hit me. I'm the Nolan Ryan of batting practice pitchers. I'm throwing the ball too fast. With that thought, I hear a voice over my right shoulder. It's the batter who hit in the batting cage before him, and he yells into his teammate, hey, Steve, you have to wait on it. It's coming in slow. It's coming in slow? It's coming in slow? I'll show you coming in slow. So I run back to the mound. I'm ready to wind up again, and I hear another voice from the side. It's Butch, the manager. He says, hold on, Skip. Kevin's right. You're trying to throw the ball too hard. Your arm speed's coming around fast, but the ball's coming out slow. It's messing up the batter's timing. He says, just throw the ball normal and naturally. Stop trying to be Nolan Ryan. How did he know? Must have been giving off some type of vibe. So after that, have you ever thought you were doing something well and you got feedback and you had to make some adjustments? So with that, I just throw the ball normal and natural. That next ball may have gone in slow. It went out fast, 350 feet over the fence. Every pitch after that, they're spraying the ball around the field. And in that moment, I had an epiphany. The job of a batting practice pitcher is not to strike out the batters. The job of a batting practice pitcher is to pitch the ball so that it connects, so that the players can get warmed up for the game, so they build confidence for the game. When you communicate, as a project manager and project leader, your job is to pitch your communication so that it connects. And I trust that you've learned something here today in this presentation that will help you pitch your communication so that you connect better than ever and you can exert the positive influence that you know you can and create even better projects and make this world a better place because you deserve it. You've been a great audience. Thank you for laughing at my jokes. Thank you.
Skip, thank you very much. Fabulous presentation. Can we give them a quick round of applause?
I'll see you at my table out there.
Okay, buy books. And
oh, what is this?
Token of our appreciation.